The Galactic Council chamber was a place of endless light and sound. Great pillars of crystal reached upward, glowing with energy. Alien banners floated in the air, shifting in color to show the pride of 100 species. Here the galaxy's rulers gathered to speak, to argue, and to decide the fate of billions. At the center, on a platform of silver, stood the Vorak Dominion. They were an ancient empire known for their strength in war. Their leader, High Strategist Kortal, towered above most others. His armored plates gleamed like steel, and his 4 burning eyes scanned the chamber with arrogance. To him, every other species looked weak, but none more so than the newcomers, the humans of Earth. The humans had been given a seat in the council only recently. Their ships had just begun traveling the stars. Their colonies were still small, their fleets still few. The older species considered them young, naive, and easy to control. Earth's ambassador, a tall woman named Elena Hayes, stood on the opposite side of the chamber. She wore the dark uniform of the Terran Republic, simple compared to the jeweled robes of other species. She kept her hands behind her back and her face calm. Behind her sat the human delegation, officers, scientists, and translators. They were silent, watching. The debate had started with trade routes. It had moved to border rights. Then Kortal shifted the subject to humanity itself. They demand recognition, Kortal growled, his voice echoing like thunder. Recognition? These insects dare to sit among us? Laughter filled the chamber. Long-necked Solarians hissed in amusement. The scaled Threxans pounded their tails on the floor in approval. Even the usually calm Allurians gave low chuckles. Kortal raised a clawed hand. Look at them. Fragile bodies, short lives, no claws, no venom, no natural armor. They cannot even survive on half the worlds we breathe. They are nothing but vermin that crawled out of their mud ball. The laughter grew louder. Some aliens clapped their appendages together, mocking applause, but the humans remained still. Ambassador Hayes showed no anger on her face, though her eyes hardened. She let the storm of laughter pass. Kortal leaned closer to the council's heart, his mandibles clicking in mock disgust. Insects should know their place. The Vorak Dominion does not share power with pests, and if they are not careful, the boot of the Dominion will crush them as easily as one crushes a crawling bug. The words hung in the air like poison. The council chamber quieted. All eyes turned to the humans. Surely they would protest. Surely they would shout back or storm out in fury. But Ambassador Hayes only stepped forward. Her boots clicked on the crystal floor, a calm sound against the silence. She faced Kortal, her voice steady, controlled, and clear. High Strategist, she said, we thank you for your perspective. Humanity is new to these stars. That is true. Our fleets are smaller, our colonies fewer, our years shorter. Kortal smirked, his mandibles twitching with satisfaction. He thought her words were submission, but Hayes did not stop. Her voice grew stronger, sharper. Yet you forget something. Insects survive. Insects adapt. Insects bite. The chamber froze. The laughter ended. Aliens shifted uncomfortably, unsure whether this was foolish defiance or hidden threat. Hayes turned and walked back to her place, showing no fear. She did not wait for permission. She did not bow. She simply sat down, her hands folded neatly on the table. The humans behind her remained calm as well. One of them, Captain Aaron Vance, leaned close and whispered just loud enough for their group to hear, "Bugs bite, all right. And some carry plague." The humans allowed themselves the smallest of smiles, unseen by the rest of the council. The meeting continued, but something had changed. The Vorak felt certain they had humiliated humanity, but a seed of unease lingered in the minds of others. The humans had not shouted or begged. They had spoken with control, with quiet steel, and that unsettled many. When the council adjourned, alien leaders filed out, still laughing but less certain than before. Ambassador Hayes walked with her team back to the human shuttle. Captain Vance followed, his jaw tight. "They call us insects," he muttered once they were alone. Hayes gave him a sidelong glance. "Good, let them underestimate us. You think this won't come back to bite us?" "It already has," she said softly. "The Vorak will move against us soon. But remember this, Captain, arrogance blinds, and arrogance kills." Vance nodded slowly. He had been a soldier long enough to know the truth in her words. Far away, aboard a Vorak warship orbiting a council world, Kortal spoke with his generals. "They do not belong in the stars," he growled. "We will teach them their place. A holographic map of the stars appeared, glowing with red and blue lines. Blue marked human colonies and their few fleets. Red marked Vorak patrols, strongholds, and supply routes. The difference was clear. Red covered almost everything. One general bowed his armored head. "Shall we crush their colonies at once?" Kortal's mandibles clicked in delight. "Not yet. Let them grow a little. Let them spread their fragile wings. Then when they think they belong among us, we will strike. And their fall will be an example to all who dare rise against the Dominion." The generals roared in agreement. None of them saw the danger in waiting. None of them considered what humans might do with time. On Earth, the insult spread like fire. News networks replayed the words, "Insects. Vermin. Crush them." Citizens were angry, but more than that, they were united. For the first time in history, nations that had once fought each other now stood side by side. Leaders signed the Terran Defense Accord, vowing that Earth would never kneel to any alien empire. Factories built warships at a pace never seen before. Engineers studied alien wrecks from old skirmishes, learning how to twist foreign technology into human design. Soldiers trained harder, preparing for wars that might last lifetimes. But it was not just military power that grew. Scientists unlocked new energy sources. Explorers reached further into the void. Colonists learned to survive on hostile worlds that aliens had abandoned as too dangerous. Every insult, every laugh, every mocking word fueled humanity's fire. The Vorak had called them insects. Humanity decided to show the galaxy what happens when insects swarm. The first whispers of fear came from the smaller races. The Krillari traders, who had once mocked human weakness, now spoke of strange tactics humans used in pirate encounters. The frail miners, who lived near human colonies, told of human soldiers who fought even when wounded, who would rather die than surrender. "Something is wrong," one alien elder whispered to another in the markets of the Outer Rim. "The humans. They are changing. They do not break like others." But by then, it was too late. In the silence of space, a single human fleet drifted near the borders of the Dominion. Their ships were not the largest. Their weapons were not the strongest. But inside those ships, every man and woman carried the same memory, the day their people were called insects. The Vorak Dominion wasted no time. The moment the council session ended, their fleets began to move. To them, crushing humanity was not war, it was extermination. High strategist Kortal ordered the campaign himself. Vorak ships, sharp and jagged like predators, left their strongholds in waves. Their mission was simple: burn human colonies, shatter their fleets, and remind the galaxy that no insects could rise against them. The first target was New Carthage, a young human colony near the rim of council space. It had only 30,000 settlers and a small orbital defense station. To the Vorak, it was nothing more than a test, a warm-up before the true slaughter began. The invasion begins on the colony. Life was calm. Farmers worked in domes under the pale light of a distant sun. Children studied history on glowing screens, learning about Earth's long wars. The settlers had heard rumors of tension with the Vorak, but no one expected the aliens to come so soon. That changed when the sky burned. The Vorak fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel like a storm of fire. 10 warships, each bristling with weapons, surrounded the small colony. Their shields glowed like angry suns. Inside the defense station, Commander Reyes stared at his screens in disbelief. 10 warships, he whispered. Against us? His crew was small, barely 200 men and women. The station itself had only a handful of rail cannons and missile launchers. Against a full Vorak fleet, it was hopeless. A Vorak voice crackled across the comms, cold and sharp. "Human insects. Your time among the stars is finished. Surrender, and we may let some of you live as slaves. Resist, and you will be erased." The settlers listened in fear. Many wanted to beg for mercy, but the voice of Commander Reyes cut through the panic. "No," he said. "We will not bow. We hold until help comes." The settlers looked at each other. Help from where? Humanity had no great fleets nearby, but Reyes believed. And sometimes belief was enough to ignite courage. The first bite, the Vorak expected surrender. Instead, they received fire. The defense station launched every missile it had. Trails of smoke and light streaked into the void, slamming into the lead Vorak cruiser. Shields flared, but one missile punched through, striking its engines. The mighty warship staggered. "Insects bite," Reyes shouted. Cheers erupted in the control room. The Vorak roared in fury. Their ships returned fire. Beams of plasma cut across space, smashing into the station's shields. Metal screamed. Explosions shook the colony. Still, the humans fought. They used every trick: decoys, fake signals, hidden turrets in the colony's surface. Even children and farmers joined the defense, loading ammunition and repairing systems. What should have been a simple slaughter became a struggle. The Vorak lost time. They lost ships. And for the first time in centuries, they felt something strange in war. Resistance. Arrival of the Terran fleet. Just as the station's shields were failing, new signals appeared on the scanners. At first, no one believed it. But then the truth became clear. Human ships, 5 destroyers and 2 cruisers dropped out of faster-than-light travel. The Terran Defense Accord had sent its first fleet. At their head was Captain Aaron Vance, the same man who had whispered about biting insects in the council chamber. His face appeared on Reyes's screen. "Commander, you've done enough. We'll take it from here." Reyes grinned, blood on his forehead. "About time, Captain." The battle shifted. Human destroyers were smaller than Vorak warships, but they were faster, more agile. Instead of trading blows head-on, Vance's fleet darted in and out like hunters. They launched salvos, disappeared into asteroid fields, then struck again from unexpected angles. One Vorak ship exploded in a ball of fire. Then another. Panic spread through the alien ranks. "These insects? They fight like predators!" one Vorak officer cried. Guerrilla tactics. The battle dragged for hours. The Vorak had numbers and raw power, but the humans fought with something different: adaptability. Vance's fleet used tactics no alien commander had ever seen. They overloaded reactors to create false energy signatures. They shut down ships to appear dead, then sprang back to life for ambushes. They turned asteroids into weapons, pushing them into Vorak flight paths. Kortal had promised an easy victory. Instead, his fleet commanders were calling for reinforcements. In the middle of the chaos, Captain Vance stood calm. His crew trusted him because he fought not with arrogance but with focus. He reminded them of Earth's history: wars fought against impossible odds, battles where humans had always found a way to win. "This is just another war," he told his officers. "Different stars, same story. We hold the line." Victory at a price at last, the Vorak broke. Their ships, battered and humiliated, retreated into faster-than-light space. The humans had won. New Carthage was scarred, its defense station half ruined, but it still stood. The settlers cried with relief as Vance's fleet descended to bring aid. Commander Reyes limped forward, saluting Vance as he stepped onto the colony's surface. "You saved us." Vance shook his head. "No, you saved yourselves. We just gave you the edge." The Galaxy Watch's news of the battle spread faster than light. Across the galaxy, species that had once laughed at humans now whispered in shock. The insects fought the Vorak and survived. They even won. For smaller races living under Vorak rule, the story became a beacon of hope. If humans could fight back, maybe they could too. In the council chambers, alien leaders argued in confusion. Some demanded humanity be crushed before they grew stronger. Others warned that moving against them might only spark greater rebellion. And far away, in the throne world of the Vorak Dominion, High Strategist Kortal listened to the reports. His claws dug into the steel floor. "Insects," he snarled. "They dare to resist us. Then we will burn their nests. We will show the galaxy that no one defies the Dominion." His generals bowed in silence, though unease flickered in their eyes, because even they could not ignore what the humans had done. The seed of fear back on Earth. Celebrations filled the skies. Fireworks burst above cities. Songs of victory echoed through the streets. Humanity had proven itself. But in the military command halls, there was no celebration, only preparation. Captain Vance stood with Ambassador Hayes and the leaders of the Accord. "This was only the first strike," Hayes said. "The Vorak will return, stronger, angrier." Vance nodded. "Good, let them come. Every battle teaches us more. Every loss makes us harder." He looked out at the stars, his voice quiet but firm. "They think we're insects. Let's show them what happens when insects swarm." The galaxy was changing. The Vorak had awakened something they did not understand. Humanity had tasted war among the stars, and instead of breaking, they had grown sharper, hungrier, and more determined. The first clash was over. The real war was only beginning. The Vorak Dominion had never known humiliation. For centuries, their fleets crushed every opponent. Entire species surrendered without a fight. To lose against humans, weak, fragile newcomers, was an insult too deep to ignore. High Strategist Kortal sat in his war chamber, 4 burning eyes fixed on the stars. Around him, his generals argued. They tricked us with chaos, one growled. They fight without honor, another hissed. They are dangerous, a third whispered. Kortal slammed his claws on the table, silencing them. They are insects, and insects can be burned out with fire. Prepare the Dominion's full strength. We will erase their colonies until the galaxy forgets their name. The generals roared in approval, but in their hearts unease lingered, the human response on Earth. The news of New Carthage's survival had transformed the people. The Vorak had expected fear. Instead, they found unity. The Terran Defense Accord grew stronger each day. Nations that once argued over borders now pooled resources. Factories worked without rest. New ships rolled out of orbital docks faster and sharper than before. At the center of it all was Captain Aaron Vance. Once just a soldier, now he was seen as a hero, the man who led humanity's first real victory among the stars. But Vance did not feel like a hero. He felt the weight of responsibility pressing heavier with each passing hour. Ambassador Elena Hayes met him in the command hall. Her face was calm as always, though her eyes showed worry. The Vorak will come back with more, she said. Good, Vance replied. Let them. We won't wait this time. We hit first, Hayes raised a brow. You're suggesting a counterattack? I'm not suggesting, Vance said firmly. I'm planning it. Choosing the target, the Terran High Command debated for days. Some argued they should defend, build stronger walls, and wait. But Vance knew defense was not enough. If they only reacted, the Vorak would overwhelm them with numbers. Humanity had to strike where it hurt. Scouts had mapped the edges of Vorak space. Supply depots, fuel stations, and relay hubs connected the Dominion like blood vessels. Without them, even the mighty Vorak fleets would starve and stumble. Vance pointed to a glowing mark on the star map. Here, the Vorak outpost at Dravik Prime. It feeds 3 whole fleets. If we cut it off, their war machine slows. It was bold. It was dangerous. And it was exactly what humanity needed. The raid on Dravik Prime. The Terran fleet moved in silence. 15 ships slipped through the void, small compared to Vorak armadas, but united, ready, and burning with purpose. When they arrived at Dravik Prime, they found the outpost as expected, a massive fuel station orbiting a barren moon, guarded by 6 Vorak cruisers. The alien commander on duty laughed when the human fleet appeared. 15 ships? The insects dare attack? His laughter ended minutes later. Human destroyers darted forward like wolves. They unleashed salvos of missiles not at the cruisers but at the station's fuel tanks. Explosions rippled across space, fire blooming like suns. Vorak shields caught some blasts, but others tore through. The defenders scrambled, trying to form a line. But Vance's fleet never gave them the chance. They split into packs, hitting from different angles, forcing the larger cruisers to chase ghosts. A human frigate dove into the middle of the chaos, broadcasting false signals to confuse enemy targeting systems. 2 Vorak ships fired on each other by mistake, their shields flaring in panic. The humans struck again, missiles and rail rounds slamming into the station's heart. At last, the great Vorak fuel hub cracked apart, spilling flames into the void. Dravik Prime was gone. The message. When the humans jumped away, leaving wreckage behind, they carried with them more than victory. They carried a message. The Vorak could bleed. Across the galaxy, smaller species whispered in awe. For generations, they had lived under Vorak rule, believing resistance was impossible. Now they saw humans with fewer ships and fewer worlds, not just surviving, but striking back. On Krilari trading posts, merchants cheered and toasted to human daring. On frail mining colonies, workers secretly carved human flags into stone walls. And in the hidden prisons of the Vorak, slaves began to dream of rebellion. The Vorak Fury High Strategist Kortal roared when the news reached him. His claws tore deep into the steel floor. They destroyed Dravik Prime? They dare. His voice shook the chamber. Then we burn their colonies until the stars themselves scream. The Dominion's fleets moved faster than ever. Dozens of warships swept across human borders. Settlements were bombarded, defenses shattered, worlds burned. On Atlas Station, an orbital city of 1 million souls, Vorak troops landed with fire and steel. They expected easy slaughter, Instead, they found themselves trapped in street-to-street battles against human soldiers who refused to yield. One Vorak commander spat in rage. "Why do they fight when they know they cannot win?" The answer came when a human sniper's bullet pierced his skull. Resistance spreads. The more the Vorak pushed, the more humans adapted. Colonists dug tunnels to hide from bombardments. Engineers built weapons from mining tools. Civilians carried messages across blockades, keeping communication alive. Every loss became fuel for the fire. Captain Vance led raids behind enemy lines, striking convoys and rescue missions for trapped settlers. Each success brought more courage. Each scar made humans harder. At the same time, something unexpected began to happen. Smaller alien groups, those who had once mocked humans, sent quiet offers of help. Smugglers sold supplies to Earth at discounts. Pirate bands stopped raiding human ships, instead targeting Vorak transports. For the first time in centuries, the Vorak were not feared as much as before. The siege of Jericho's Stand. The turning point came at Jericho's Stand, a human fortress world near the edge of Dominion space. The Vorak sent a fleet of 30 ships determined to crush it and prove their dominance once and for all. Inside Jericho's bunkers, only 8 human warships waited. Outnumbered nearly 4-1, their survival seemed impossible, but Vance was there, and Vance had a plan. Instead of facing the fleet head-on, the humans lured the Vorak into the planet's gravity well. Hidden cannons buried in mountains opened fire, tearing into enemy ships from below. Human cruisers darted out from behind moons, striking fast and vanishing again. Fighters swarmed like hornets, targeting engines instead of weapons, crippling ships instead of destroying them. The battle lasted 3 days. When it ended, half the Vorak fleet was destroyed, the rest limping away in shame. Jericho's Stand still flew the Terran flag. The galaxy reacts. The galaxy could no longer laugh at humans. Their courage, their refusal to surrender, and their strange, unpredictable tactics were rewriting the rules of war. In the council chamber, alien leaders whispered nervously, "The Vorak are strong, but the humans are relentless. Perhaps they are not insects after all. Perhaps they are something worse." Ambassador Hayes stood calmly among them, her voice sharp. "You wanted to see insects, but what you are watching is evolution, and evolution never stops." A quiet moment after Jericho's victory, Captain Vance stood alone on the fortress walls, staring at the stars. His ships were battered. Thousands of humans had died. Yet for every loss, more volunteers signed up. For every world scarred, 3 more were ready to fight. Ambassador Hayes joined him, her boots crunching against the stone. "You've given the galaxy hope," she said softly. Vance shook his head. "Not hope. A reminder." "Of what?" "That humanity doesn't break." He clenched his fists. "The Vorak think we're insects. Fine, let them think that. But insects swarm. Insects spread. And when insects fight back, even giants fall." The counterattack had begun. The galaxy was watching. The galaxy had changed. Where once humans were laughed at, now they were feared. The Vorak Dominion, humiliated by defeats at New Carthage, Dravik Prime, and Jericho's Stand, was relentless in its desire for revenge. Yet humanity had learned something vital. Fear could never break them, and stubborn courage could rally even the smallest worlds. The Vorak strike-high strategist Kortal's fleets moved like a shadow across the stars. They burned through human colonies with fire and steel. Worlds that had never known war were torn apart. Cities melted under plasma storms. Orbital defense stations exploded in brilliant, deadly bursts. Yet humanity did not surrender. Colonies had prepared for this moment. Civilians dug tunnels under cities, storing weapons and food. Engineers built makeshift turrets and hidden bunkers. Farmers trained in combat. Every human, from child to elder, became a soldier in their own way. On Fort Helios, a planet at the edge of Vorak space, Captain Aaron Vance inspected the defenses. Lines of soldiers marched, engineers adjusted weapons, and civilians prepared to evacuate if necessary. Vance clenched his jaw. "They think they can crush us with numbers. Let's see what happens when courage faces fear." Beside him, Ambassador Elena Hayes nodded. "They're strong, Captain. But they don't understand humans. We do not break. We adapt." The siege begins. Vorak fleets arrived in orbit. Hundreds of ships, some 3 times the size of the Terran fleet, loomed over Helios. High strategist Kortal himself oversaw the attack, his four eyes blazing with fury. "Break them," he commanded. "Show these insects the cost of defiance." The bombardment began. Beams of plasma struck cities, tearing buildings apart. Ground troops landed to crush resistance, and entire settlements burned. The Vorak assumed victory was near. Instead, they met humans who refused to yield. Soldiers fought in the ruins, using the terrain to their advantage. Civilians lured enemy squads into traps. Engineers launched hidden explosives from tunnels beneath landing zones. Even when they were outnumbered, humans kept attacking, disappearing into the rubble only to strike again. The Vorak commander on the surface cursed. Why do they fight when all is lost? A human soldier replied calmly, firing from a makeshift turret, "Because giving up is worse than dying." Inspiring resistance. Across the galaxy, Helios's defiance sent shockwaves across the stars. Smaller species, once cowed by the Vorak, began their own rebellions. Smugglers, miners, and even former slaves coordinated attacks on Vorak supply lines. Human ingenuity sparked resistance. Messages spread quickly. Colonies called each other for support. Ships moved like coordinated swarms, striking the Dominion in places it thought were safe. The Vorak were confused. They had expected humans to break quickly, to surrender after a few blows. Instead, humans were teaching the galaxy a new lesson. Unity and courage could defy even the strongest power. The Battle of Helios Gate. The most legendary fight of this period occurred at Helios Gate, a strategic star system controlling the routes to the core worlds of human space. The Vorak sent an overwhelming fleet, 60 warships including massive dreadnoughts. The Terran Defense Accord had only 15. The odds were impossible, but Captain Vance had a plan. The humans used asteroids and debris to hide their ships. They set traps in the gravitational fields of planets using mines and automated turrets. Fighters swarmed in unpredictable patterns, distracting the larger ships. When the battle began, the Vorak unleashed full firepower. Plasma beams cut through space, warships collided, and explosions lit the void. Yet humans adapted. Destroyers darted between asteroids, striking engines, then vanishing. Cruisers feigned retreat, then attacked supply ships hidden behind planets. Every move was calculated, yet unpredictable. Hours turned into days. When the dust settled, half of the Vorak fleet was destroyed. The rest fled, limping back to regroup. Helios Gate still flew the Terran flag. Psychological warfare. The war was not just physical. It was mental. The Vorak believed fear was the key to control. They tried threatening entire colonies, bombing cities, and using prisoners as tools of intimidation. Humanity met this with courage. Even when worlds were damaged, people rebuilt faster. Even when colonies fell, survivors escaped and spread warnings to other worlds, teaching them how to resist. High strategist Kortal was furious.
"Why do they not break?"
"Why do they not surrender?" he demanded. One general, trembling, answered, "Because they do not fear death as we do. They fight for each other, not for power or glory." Kortal's eyes flared. He had never encountered a species whose courage was stronger than fear. Humans turned the tables in a daring operation. Humans struck deep into Vorak territory. They targeted supply depots, comm relays, and hidden shipyards. Each strike slowed the Dominion, forcing them to retreat or risk losing even more. Captain Vance led the charge personally. His small fleet moved fast, striking hard, then disappearing into unknown sectors. Vorak warships, large and powerful, were repeatedly ambushed and crippled. The galaxy began to whisper. Humanity was not just surviving. Humanity was winning. The importance of unity. While battles raged, the Terran Defense Accord worked tirelessly to unite humanity. Colonies shared resources, intelligence, and technology. Civilian volunteers built ships faster than factories could, trained fighters on short notice, and coordinated evacuations for civilians. Ambassador Hayes often reminded leaders, "We fight not only for Earth, but for every world that stands against tyranny. Humans do not fight alone, but together." Her words spread quickly, inspiring courage and resilience across human space. Alien doubt. The Vorak began to doubt themselves. Generals whispered that their strategies, successful for centuries, were failing. Their soldiers feared ambushes and traps. High strategist Kortal, despite his anger, began to see the truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not insects. They were unpredictable, resilient, and united. Perhaps we underestimated them. one senior officer said quietly. Koratal's eyes burned brighter. No, they are insects still. But these insects sting harder than anything I have ever known. The turning point. By the end of the Helios campaign, the Vorak Dominion was exhausted. Their fleets were battered, supply lines cut, morale shaken, and across human-controlled systems hope burned brighter than ever. Captain Vance stood on Helios watching the stars. The battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Ambassador Hayes joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. You've done more than defend our worlds. You've shown the galaxy who humans are. Vance nodded. They thought fear could stop us. They were wrong. Now every star they see, every system they control, they will know. Humans do not break. We endure, we fight. And when we strike harder. The legacy of the War of Wills. The War of Wills, as historians later called it, became legendary. Humans had faced the strongest empire in the galaxy, outnumbered and outgunned, yet they had survived. They had inspired resistance in other species, forced their enemies to rethink strategy, and proven that courage, intelligence, and unity could overcome raw power. The Vorak Dominion would recover eventually. They would rebuild their fleets. But the seed of fear had been planted. Across the galaxy, the stories of human bravery spread. Wherever Vorak soldiers went, whispers of insects who bite followed, growing into warnings. Underestimate humanity at your own peril. The galaxy had been transformed by human courage. Where once the Vorak Dominion ruled unchallenged, now fear had begun to creep into their ranks. Their fleets had been slowed, their supply lines cut, and their morale shattered. High Strategist Kortal paced in his command chamber aboard the massive Dreadspire flagship. His claws scraped the metal floor. His 4 eyes burned with fury. They survive, he growled. They strike at our heart, and still they live. Insects, perhaps, but these insects have teeth sharp enough to tear our fleets apart. A senior general bowed, his armored shoulders trembling. High Strategist, we have lost nearly 40% of our forward fleets. The humans, they do not fight like any species we have encountered. Koratal slammed his claw into the console. Enough, we will finish this. Every human world, every ship, every trace will burn. This will be the reckoning. Operation Iron Dawn, but humanity had already planned. They called it Operation Iron Dawn, a daring, decisive strike deep into Vorak territory. Captain Aaron Vance and Admiral Liara Chen, commander of the Terran Defense Accord Fleet, gathered in the Earth Command Hall. Holographic maps glowed with red and blue lights. Blue marked human fleets and colonies. Red marked Vorak strongholds. Vance's finger hovered over a cluster of red dots. This is the Vorak core supply hub, Archer Prime. Destroy it and we cripple their war machine. Admiral Chen nodded. We will have fewer ships, but speed, strategy, and coordination are on our side. The Vorak will not expect this, Ambassador Elena Hayes added calmly. And the galaxy will watch. Every species oppressed by the Dominion will see the humans strike first, strike boldly, and strike without fear. Vance's jaw tightened. Then let's show them the sting of the insects. The deep strike human fleets jumped into Vorak space silently. They moved like shadows, past patrols using asteroid fields and sensor-blocking maneuvers to remain unseen. When they arrived at Archer Prime, the heart of Vorak logistics, they faced the full power of the Dominion. 10 dreadnoughts, 40 cruisers, and countless fighters. Vance smiled grimly. We do not need to destroy them all. We need to break them. The humans divided their fleet into 5 groups. Each group attacked simultaneously from different angles, striking supply lines, fuel depots, and communication relays. The battle was chaos. Explosions lit the void. Plasma beams cut ships in half. Yet the humans fought with precision and coordination. Every strike was calculated. Every maneuver unpredictable. A Vorak dreadnought, massive and ancient, roared as it fired on human destroyers. Yet the humans anticipated it. Fighters swarmed from the sides, striking weak points while missiles found cracks in the hull. Within minutes, the dreadnought was crippled. The fall of Archer Prime erupted in fire. Fuel tanks exploded. Weapon platforms burned. Communications went dead. Vorak ships, disoriented and panicked, tried to regroup. Vance's fleet circled the system, striking any remaining ships. Smaller human ships darted between planets, using debris to hide and strike from unexpected angles. The destruction was devastating. By the end of the engagement, Archer Prime lay in ruins. More than half of the Vorak's forward fleet was destroyed. Supplies critical to their war machine had vanished, and across the galaxy, the signal was clear. Humanity was no longer a threat to be underestimated. The collapse of the Dominion High Strategist Quartal received reports in disbelief. How did they reach our core? A general hesitated. High Strategist. Our forces cannot hold. Human fleets, they move too fast. Their tactics, we are losing control. Quartal's eyes burned with rage. Then we fight or die trying. All fleets to the front lines. Crush them! But the humans were already there, ready. Each attack further weakened the Vorak. Communications failed, supply lines were destroyed, and morale collapsed. Alien soldiers, once confident and proud, fled or surrendered. The Dominion's empire, long thought unshakable, began to crumble from within. The reckoning, the final battle, took place above Vorak Prime, the central world of the Dominion. The humans had a small fleet compared to the alien armada, but what they lacked in numbers they made up for with strategy, courage, and resolve. Captain Vance led the strike personally. Human cruisers darted like lightning. Destroyers swarmed like bees and fighters struck like shadows. The Vorak fought hard, but they were disorganized, demoralized, and terrified of human tactics. Explosions tore across space as dreadnoughts fell one by one. Vorak fighters were trapped and destroyed. Human missiles struck supply hubs, causing chain reactions that shattered enemy formations. Quartal watched from orbit, fury and fear clashing in his mind. These insects, they will not die. Vance's voice echoed across the fleet comms, calm and firm. We do not surrender. We endure, and now, the reckoning has come for you. By the end of the battle, the Vorak fleet was destroyed. Their homeworld survived only because the humans did not target civilians, an intentional restraint. But the Empire's power, its pride, its domination lay broken. Surrender and shock. The galaxy watched in disbelief. The once mighty Vorak Dominion had been humbled. The Galactic Council convened emergency sessions. Alien leaders who had mocked humans now bowed, formally acknowledging the Terran Defense Accord. High Strategist Quartal finally sent a message. A surrender. Humans, you have won. The Dominion will cease hostilities. Captain Vance read the message in silence. He smiled faintly. Insects, they called us. But insects can conquer empires if they fight with heart. Ambassador Hayes responded formally, her voice steady. The galaxy has learned a lesson today. Never underestimate humans. We are resilient, adaptable, and united. And if you threaten others, we will act again. The aftermath human fleets returned to Earth, battered but victorious. Colonies rebuilt and survivors of the war honored the fallen. Across the stars, smaller species celebrated human courage and leadership. The galaxy had seen what humans could do, not because of numbers, not because of power, but because of heart, unity, and will. Captain Vance and Ambassador Hayes stood together, overlooking the stars from Earth's orbit. They called us insects, Vance said softly. Hayes nodded. And they had no idea what insects can do when they fight for their home. Vance clenched his fist. They'll remember it forever. The galaxy, once under the shadow of the Vorak, now knew a new truth. Humans were not weak. Humans were not insects in the way others believed. Humans were fierce, unpredictable, and unstoppable when united. A new era. With the Vorak humbled, the galaxy entered a new era. Humans led coalitions, shared technology with allies, and inspired resistance in oppressed worlds. Trade and diplomacy flourished, but the humans never forgot the lessons of war. Captain Vance trained the next generation of pilots. Ambassador Hayes taught new diplomats the power of courage and wisdom. Humanity expanded not to conquer but to protect, to survive, and to shine as an example of resilience. And somewhere in the stars, the ruined fleets of the Vorak were a reminder. Arrogance blinds, underestimation kills, and even the smallest species can shape the destiny of the galaxy. Final reflection. The galaxy whispered the stories of humanity for generations. From New Carthage to Arcor Prime, from Helios Gate to Vorak Prime, humans had fought, survived, and triumphed. They were called insects. Now they were legends. Vance looked at the stars one last time. We fought because we had to. We won because we refused to break. And the galaxy now knows the truth, Elena Hayes smiled. They will never call us insects again.